College marked the slow beginning of a life I didn't realize was about to fall apart. I was ambitious, focused, set on building something lasting. But somewhere between the lectures and late-night cram sessions, I met someone who would completely derail everything I thought I wanted. Lana had that magnetic pull, confident, polished, and impossible to ignore. She lit up every room she entered, and despite the gut feeling that warned me to keep my distance, I fell fast. Our relationship took off quickly. We were constantly together, same classes, long conversations, shared dreams. It felt right. I started imagining a future with her. But now I can admit there were cracks early on, small things that hinted we might not fit as perfectly as I believed. Lana had a sharp tongue, a dazzling smile, and that air of mystery that left me chasing her approval. What I didn't see was how that mystery would slowly destroy the life we'd built. I'm David Foster, and for years, I believed I had everything under control. Then, one night, that illusion shattered. The life I cherished, my family, my peace, my dreams, either fell apart or teetered on the edge. I held on to a verse from the Bible for comfort. Time and chance happen to them all. A reminder that no matter how careful we are, life spins on its own terms. I married Lana Whitaker just 3 months after we graduated. For over 7 years, I never suspected betrayal. Lana was stunning, blonde, green-eyed, charming. She pulled me in from the start. We wanted the same things, or so I thought, and marriage felt like the next step. I wasn't movie star material at 5 feet 8 inches and 190 pounds, but I held my own. We met in a stats class and clicked instantly. Right before graduation, I landed a good job. Our future seemed bright. One thing bothered me, though. Lana never wanted me to meet her parents. She was embarrassed by their financial struggles. But when I finally met Frank and Maya, I found them warm and generous. After my own parents passed, they became like family to me. Even when Lana ignored them, I kept in touch and helped however I could. I started out as a staff accountant at a large firm, making good money. 3 years later, I passed the CPA exam and was promoted to department head. 6-figure salary, new home, better lifestyle. Lana was thrilled. Soon after our wedding, she gave birth to twins, Rachel and Ethan. Lana wasn't thrilled about motherhood at first. It didn't come naturally to her, but eventually she adjusted and looked the part of a dedicated mom. After 5 years at home, she returned to work as a legal assistant. I had my worries, temptation, office drama, but her boss, Vince, was a loyal family man. Things felt stable. Until year 6. That's when Lana changed. One evening, after snapping at Rachel over nothing, she admitted she felt trapped, like her life was some cage she needed to escape. She craved more: luxury, travel, freedom. I suggested counseling, but she laughed in my face and said she wasn't crazy. Her moods grew darker, unpredictable. I did what I could, focused on the kids, and kept our family moving forward. Weekends became our escape. I took the twins out: parks, movies, ice cream. Lana sometimes joined, but usually she stayed behind. The kids never said it, but I knew they preferred it that way when she wasn't in one of her moods. Things briefly improved after a company picnic, but then came New Year's Eve. We usually skipped those parties, preferring quiet nights at home. But this time, Lana insisted we go. Said she wanted to dance. Odd, since she never liked crowds. When we arrived, I was surprised to see Chase Langford, our high-ranking boss who rarely attended. He had met Lana at a past picnic, but him being at this party was unexpected. Soon after we got there, Chase asked Lana to dance. She said yes. They danced a couple of songs. When I asked, she brushed me off, saying she was tired. But when Chase came back, she lit up and danced 5 more songs. As midnight approached, I realized I hadn't seen her in almost an hour. I looked for her, wanting to kiss her at the countdown, and found her instead in a corner, kissing Chase. I lost it. Stormed up, shoved him, and yelled, "Get your hands off my wife, you idiot." The room froze. No one ever talked to Chase like that. I didn't care. My heart pounded. My face burned. I was ready for a fight. Chase just smirked. "Lana, we're leaving," I said, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. "I'm sorry, David," she said coldly, slipping her hand into Chase's. "Just for tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." She left with him. Just like that. The crowd stared in stunned silence while I stood there, completely humiliated. I walked out alone. My world collapsed. New Year's Day, I woke up with a brutal hangover. I'd cried, drank too much, and barely slept. I was furious, sure Chase had manipulated her. But beneath the anger, I still hoped we could fix it. I started drafting what I'd say when she came home. Maybe therapy could help. But doubt crept in. What if she didn't come back? I panicked, rushed to pick up the twins before she could. We went to IHOP. While they devoured pancakes, I scribbled notes, one version for reconciliation, one for divorce. When we got home, she still wasn't there. Then I saw the blinking light on the answering machine. It was Lana. Her voice was cold, distant. She said she needed space and was going on a business trip with Chase as his temporary secretary. It was laughable. We both knew what that meant. I ripped up the reconciliation plan. That betrayal hit harder than anything I'd ever felt. My mind went to dark places I wasn't prepared for. Anger, revenge, despair. They all came crashing down on me, but even at my lowest, I never seriously considered hurting myself. My kids meant too much to me. Abandoning them? Not a chance. Still, as my mind spiraled, one haunting question wouldn't leave me alone. Were Ethan and Rachel actually mine? I hated even thinking it, but I had to know. At dinner that night, I managed to keep a smile on my face while casually collecting samples for a DNA test. The kids were laughing, blissfully unaware. I was dying inside. On the drive home, I realized I couldn't do this alone. I needed a lawyer. Fast. I called an old friend who had gone through a brutal divorce. He didn't hesitate, told me to contact his ex-wife's attorney, Greg Stanton. Even though it was New Year's Day, I called the number. To my surprise, a man picked up. Greg Stanton, he said. I was caught off guard. It was actually him. Before he could hang up or brush me off, I jumped in, told him everything, including the part about Lana and my boss, Chase Langford. That name changed everything. Greg's tone shifted immediately. Can you come to my office at 9 a.m. Tuesday? He asked. If I can find someone to watch the kids, I replied. Bring them with you, he said. Actually, having them there might help clarify a few things. He also told me to gather everything, bank statements, tax returns, utility bills, birth certificates, marriage license, even receipts for anything over $100. I hung up and spent the rest of the day with the twins, trying to push down the hurt. On the way to dinner, I picked up a DNA kit. That night, after we swabbed our cheeks, I dropped it in the mail and prayed for peace of mind. 2 days later, the results came back. Ethan and Rachel were mine. Relief washed over me, but only briefly. The battle was just beginning. Tuesday morning was chaos. I scrambled to get the kids ready, called off work for the week, and headed to Greg Stanton's office. He welcomed us into a large conference room and gave the kids some tablets to keep them distracted while we talked. Twice, I broke down explaining how my wife had walked out on me, on our family, on New Year's Eve. Greg listened closely, his face calm but firm. He let me vent, then gave it to me straight. This won't be easy, but we'll handle it. Then he surprised me. He told me his cousin Abby had once been married to Chase's brother, Joe. Joe cheated, too, just like Chase, and in that divorce, Chase's team buried Greg in court. It had been early in his career, but that loss lit a fire under him, and since then, Greg had made family law his mission. Chase will throw his legal army at us, he said, but I'll go down swinging for you. That was all I needed to hear. We got to work right away. I laid out what I wanted. The house, half our assets, no alimony, my pension untouched, and joint custody of the kids. Greg nodded but warned me to brace for reality. Lana might go for primary custody, especially if she quit work and married Chase. I clenched my jaw. I didn't do anything wrong, and yet I'm the one losing everything. Greg sighed. The court doesn't always reward who's right. But if Lana remarries and becomes a stay-at-home mom, child support might not fall on you. Alimony's still a possibility. I'd pay support every day if it meant seeing my kids, I said, voice tight. Before I left, Greg sat down with Ethan and Rachel. When he returned, he smiled warmly. You're a good dad, David. Those kids adore you. They love their mom, sure, but it's clear where their hearts are. Those words gave me a rare sliver of hope. I left feeling slightly better about the legal side of things, but the uncertainty about my time with the kids still gnawed at me. Greg promised to draft the petition and request for temporary custody. The plan was to serve Lana as soon as she got back from her little business trip. 8 days after the betrayal, she finally called. Can we talk? She asked. I agreed. Arranged for the twins to stay with a neighbor. I knew this wasn't a reconciliation. Lana had made her choice, but I still needed closure. When she showed up, I made her wait outside a moment before opening the door. I walked past her without a word, grabbed a beer, and sat down. She asked about the kids. So now you care about them? I said coolly. I guess I deserve that, she murmured, trying on some fake humility. Then came the excuses. Chase and I didn't plan for me to leave that night. The trip just came up, and he thought it'd be best if you had space. I scoffed. And then you magically realized he's your soulmate? It just happened, David. It wasn't planned. Right. Isn't it convenient how your soulmate happens to be rich? Her expression darkened. I'm here to talk about the divorce. Can we at least be civil? You lost the right to civil the second you walked out. She rolled her eyes. I'm not here to be insulted. Then leave, I said, heading toward the backyard. Truth is, I didn't want her to go, not yet. I just didn't want her to see me lose control. To my surprise, she stayed, reached into her purse, and pulled out an envelope. I opened it. Greg had been right. Her offer looked decent on paper until I hit the last paragraph. That's when my blood boiled. You've got to be kidding me. Tell Chase he can shove this proposal where the sun doesn't shine. I'm not letting him adopt my kids. And offering me $100,000 to agree? That's sick. Chase and I can give them a better life, she argued. Nicer home, private school, more opportunities. Spare me. Chase is even trying to buy me off now. He's willing to go up to $250. I stared at her, disgusted. Lana, not only are you a gold digger, you're a fool. What part of go to hell don't you understand? Fine. He might offer $500. That's more than you'll ever earn. We struggled because I worked my ass off while you sat around complaining. And Chase is still my boss. He fires me? I file with the EEOC. She hesitated. We just want what's best. Cut the crap. You abandoned your family. The court knows it. I didn't abandon them, she snapped. Right then, the doorbell rang. It's for you, I said, smiling as I walked over. I opened the door. A sheriff's deputy stood there with a manila envelope. Lana Whitaker? He asked. She took the papers. Her eyes scanned the contents, and then the tears came. Without another word, she stormed out. It felt satisfying. Not because she cried, but because, for once, she had to face the consequences. I picked up the phone and called Greg. She just left, I said. Papers served. Hope you kept your cool, Greg said when I called him after serving Lana the papers. It was tough, I admitted, but yeah, I held it together. She left in tears. That's something, he said. Then I added, there's one thing I didn't see coming. Chase wants to adopt my kids. Can he actually do that? There was a pause on the line. That's new, Greg muttered. But unless they can prove you're unfit, it's nearly impossible. Still, tread carefully. People like Chase? They don't fight fair. Everything you say or do from now on could be twisted and thrown back at you. Stick close to people who'll vouch for you. We'll be ready. Does it ever get easier? I asked, my voice cracking. The pain's still right there. Feels like I'm stuck on that night. It does get better, he said gently. You're already not the same wreck you were when she left. You'll have rough days, sure. We might even lose a few battles. But we regroup, and we keep fighting. One step at a time. So, I kept stepping. During the week I took off work, I followed Greg's advice to the letter. I opened new bank accounts and transferred half our savings before Lana could touch it. I signed the kids up for after-school care, which went until 5:30, perfect for my work hours. It gave me breathing room, enough to run errands and still make it home for bedtime. That time with the kids turned out to be exactly what we needed. Lana had been way too lax about structure. Bedtime was chaos under her. So I set clear rules: baths, teeth brushed, lights out by 8 p.m. At first, they whined. But when I promised 2 bedtime stories instead of 1, they started looking forward to it. Our bond deepened, and strangely, they didn't ask much about their mom. Not at first. But one night, while brushing his teeth, Ethan asked, Daddy, is Mommy ever coming back? The question hit like a punch to the gut. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to shatter them either. Your mom found someone else she likes more. She wants to live with him now, I explained, struggling to keep my voice steady. She also wants him to be your new daddy. They both broke down crying. I pulled them close and whispered, no matter what happens, I'll always be your dad. No one will ever take that away. That promise, as painful as it was to say, calmed them down. They hugged me tightly, and for a few minutes, we just stayed like that, holding on. That Saturday, I took Rachel and Ethan to their weekly writing lesson. Lana hadn't bothered to check in once, but the kids lit up when they saw Miss Beth, their instructor. Beth ran the farm and taught lessons herself. Rachel was in love with horses, while Ethan, after some early hesitation, had actually surpassed her in skill. As I dropped them off, Beth waved me over. "Where's Mrs. Foster?" she asked, clearly noticing Lana's absence. "We're getting divorced," I said flatly. Her face softened. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry." "It's okay," I assured her. "Just hoping the kids can keep coming for lessons. I've got temporary custody, but Lana will probably get primary, and I'll get visitation. I'll fight for joint, but it's an uphill climb." "Why do you think that?" she asked. I sighed. "Because Lana's planning to marry her rich lover. She'll be a stay-at-home mom with a big house and flexible schedule. Meanwhile, I'll be scrambling for child care and working full-time at the same company Chase owns. I bet anything he's already planning to push me out." Beth frowned. "Wait, Chase Langford?" "Yeah, you know him." "Not personally, but I've dealt with his legal team," she said, her tone darkening. "They tried to take a piece of my land next door. Buried me in motions and legal threats until I finally gave it up just to stop the bleeding. They paid my legal fees, but I lost a good chunk of my ranch." She shook her head. "I've been hoping someone would knock Chase off his pedestal. I'd settle for seeing him lose something that actually matters to him," I said, bitterly. Lana made her choice. "Let them rot together." She gave me a long look. "So what will you do if Chase fires you?" "I've started a side hustle, tax prep, and bookkeeping. I've got a few clients, but it's not enough to support the kids yet," I said. "If the divorce goes badly, I'll probably have to sell the house, move into an apartment, and figure it out from there." "If you can match what I'm paying now," she said, "I'd love to give you my accounting work." I shook my head. "I can't ask you for that." "You're not. My current accountant's with one of those giant firms. They overcharge and underdeliver. Been with them since I inherited the ranch, but honestly, they've gotten lazy." I glanced back at the kids, laughing with their ponies, then turned to her. "All right, let me take a look at your books. If I can match what you're paying, I'd be happy to help." She brought me into her office and laid everything out: bank records, tax returns, the works. Took me about 10 minutes to realize she was being overcharged by a ridiculous margin. "I can't match their rate," I said, smirking. "They're charging you highway robbery. I'll do it for $750 a month, plus $2,000 at tax time." She blinked. "No, I'm fine paying what I've been paying." "I'm not," I replied firmly. "You're paying too much because your ranch is too small for them to care about. I'll only do this if I can charge a fair price." Beth smiled. "That's going to help a lot. I've had a hard time saving since taking over this place. Honestly, the $1,250 I'll save each month makes a huge difference." Then she added, "And by the way, Rachel and Ethan's riding lessons? Free from now on." "I can't accept that," I said, stunned. "You didn't ask," she said with a grin. "I'm offering." It was a bright spot, one of the only ones. I had a little momentum now, but the divorce was only getting nastier. Every week, new photos of Chase and Lana popped up in the local paper. Laughing, holding hands, toasting champagne. While I struggled to keep my life from collapsing, they were flaunting theirs. Worse, I still hadn't figured out how to strike back. My life felt like a war I was losing. 2 weeks after D-Day, my morning started on a high note. Harvey's Hardware called to offer me a contract gig doing their accounting. I finally felt like I was climbing out of the pit. Then, a few hours later, at work, Chase's company, I was called into HR. And just like that, I was fired. Getting fired wasn't a shock, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Ever since the New Year's Eve party, the office had become a graveyard of conversations that died the moment I walked into a room. The whispers, the fake smiles, the tension, it was only a matter of time before Chase pulled the trigger. But knowing it was coming didn't soften the blow. He wanted me out of the way, and now he'd made his first major move. I called Greg immediately. He didn't miss a beat. "We'll file a wrongful termination complaint with the EEOC, but I'll be honest, it could take years." Then, without asking, he drafted a public statement and sent it to local news outlets. The story spread quickly, and word got back that Chase was furious about it. Good. Let him feel some heat for once. Later that same day, Greg called me with surprising news. The judge granted joint custody, he said. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The kids will stay at the house. Lana has the option to live there, too, but she declined. Of course she did. Instead, she chose to pick the kids up every afternoon and drop them off in the evenings. What should have been a small victory turned into a fresh kind of torment. Every night, I stood on the porch, watching Lana roll up in Chase's luxury SUV. I had to smile through her public displays of affection, laughing too loudly, kissing him like they were teenagers, tossing flirty jabs while the kids looked on, confused and silent. It was humiliating. And it was only the beginning. Soon after custody was shared, Lana's lawyer filed a motion to move the kids' primary residence to Chase's house. The filing accused me of sabotaging visitation, of poisoning the kids against their mother. It was as laughable as it was infuriating. Greg responded by highlighting reality Lana barely visited. When she did, the kids would ask, "Why don't you come see us more, Mommy?" But the judge didn't comment on the false accusations. Greg wasn't surprised. He's probably juggling 30, 40 cases at once, he said. But unfortunately, he ordered a 2-week custody rotation starting next month. I thought it would be a hassle for Lana. After all, Chase's mansion was 35 minutes from the school. But I had underestimated just how far they'd go. Since the night she left, I'd started seeing the truth. I never really knew Lana. Maybe she didn't even know herself. But letting go of someone you once loved, even someone who's betrayed you, isn't easy. The first time she came to pick up Rachel and Ethan under the new arrangement, I didn't expect the conversation that followed. After the kids were buckled into her car, she lingered on the sidewalk, visibly nervous but oddly composed. "Please don't make this divorce harder than it has to be," she said. "I still care about you, David. I don't want Chase to destroy you." I stared at her, unsure whether to laugh or yell. "If you let Chase adopt the kids," she continued, "I'll give you full visitation rights. But I can't let you ruin my relationship with him." My blood turned ice. I took a long breath. "You know, I thought you were just a cheater. But this is something else. You're manipulative, Lana. Cold. Full visitation rights?" I scoffed. "Get the hell out of here." I turned my back, but she wasn't done. "You've been warned," she called out. I went straight to Greg and relayed every word. "I told you," he said grimly. "Chase plays dirty. Lana's worse. Have you finished setting up those cameras?" "Almost. I've already got ones installed in the kids' room, the hallway, my bedroom, the kitchen, and the family room. The rest are going up tomorrow. All footage goes to the cloud." "Good," Greg said. "They're going to try something. Be ready." Sure enough, it didn't take long. The next week, I got a call from the kids' school. Ethan and Rachel hadn't shown up. My heart sank. I called Lana. "Are they sick?" "No," she said smugly. "I transferred them to Chesterton Primary. It's closer to our house. And it's a better school. You can't just do that." I snapped. "I already did," she said before hanging up. I called Greg in a panic. "We'll fight it," he said. "But Chesterton has a higher rating. The court will probably side with her. Judges go with what they think is best for the kids, even if it sends the message that she can do whatever she wants and you're just an obstacle." Then came his warning. "This is just the beginning. Stay sharp." By Tuesday, Greg filed a motion to challenge the transfer. But on Wednesday, things escalated. Lana's lawyers accused me of mistreating Rachel. I was stunned. Greg stayed calm. "We'll handle it. There's an emergency hearing. Until then, you can't see the kids." It was a gut punch. Greg immediately filed for discovery, demanding specific details. The judge wasn't buying the vague accusation. "If these claims are false," the judge warned, "Mrs. Foster will face consequences." The next day, their lawyer sent over a vague report, but still no real evidence. Greg was confident. "We've got footage. Audio. Timestamps. We'll clear this." At the hearing, the judge turned to Lana's lawyer. "Do you have any actual evidence?" The children told their mother. He replied weakly. "And your response, Mr. Stanton?" the judge asked. "The accusation is false," Greg said calmly. "We have video footage taken from cameras Mr. Foster installed for this exact reason." Landry, Lana's lawyer, objected. "That footage could be doctored." The judge shook his head. "The videos are stored securely with Able Security and the cloud. 2 people have access, Mr. Foster and the provider. I trust it." The court reviewed the footage. Nothing inappropriate. Not even close. After a brief meeting with the kids, the judge returned, clearly irritated. "This was a misunderstanding," he said sharply. "But Mrs. Foster, if something like this happens again, I won't be as lenient." Landry stood. "Your Honor, while we're here, can you also rule on the school issue?" The judge nodded. "Chesterton is a better-rated school. The children say they like it. They will remain enrolled." I dodged jail, but lost a critical battle. Outside the courthouse, Greg didn't sugarcoat it. "This strengthens Lana's case for primary custody. But you kept visitation, and most importantly, you're cleared." "Great," I muttered bitterly. Lana's going to keep sabotaging visits, spinning lies, and showing up in court while she and Chase play happy family. And I'm the one left picking up the pieces. Greg placed a hand on my shoulder. Let them play house, he said. We'll see how long it lasts. Isn't there anything I can do? I asked Greg, clinging to what little hope I had left. He shook his head slowly. Unless you move to the Chesterton district and get married, there's not much the court will consider in your favor. That weekend, I took the kids to their riding lessons, but I barely registered what was happening around me. Rachel's laughter, Ethan's excitement, they all felt like echoes through a fog. My life had become a collapsing mess. My wife had left me. I'd lost my job. Now, I was losing my kids, too. And there Lana was, smiling in magazines and sipping wine at fundraisers with Chase. Hey, David, Beth said, sliding onto the bench beside me. You look like someone ran over your soul. What's going on? I sighed and gave her the short version: custody complications, the pressure to move to Chesterton, the absurd suggestion that I get married to even the odds. I can't afford to move, I said bitterly. And I don't exactly have a line of brides waiting. Beth frowned. No offense, but your wife's a piece of work. She's been nothing but nasty since the lesson started. I've wanted to throw her off my property more than once, but I didn't want to upset Rachel. Yeah, I muttered. She's good at showing two faces. Then Beth paused, something sparking in her expression. What if you moved in with me? She said. I live in Chesterton. We could say we're engaged. And once your divorce is final, we follow through. Get married. For real. I blinked. You're kidding. I'm not. You'd be in district. You'd have stability. And we both get to mess with Chase and Lana. At first, I thought she was joking. But as I sat with it, it made more and more sense. The next day, we pitched the idea to Greg. His reaction was what you'd expect. A sham marriage, he said. That's risky. If the court sees through it, Lana could end up with sole custody. It won't be fake, Beth countered. We'll do everything legit. Announce the engagement, marry legally once the divorce finalizes. He'll move in, set up his accounting firm in my den. We'll draft a prenup and a living agreement. Greg paused. If it's done properly, with legal documents, a real wedding, shared life, it's legal. But you'll need to actually live together as a married couple. No slip-ups. Beth just smiled. Bring it on. I hesitated. Beth, that's a lot. You sure you want this? Completely. Besides, ruining Chase's day sounds pretty sweet. 8 weeks after D-Day, we signed the cohabitation and prenuptial agreements. I paid rent toward household expenses, and we agreed to share any joint earnings. We kept our pre-marriage assets separate. Beth seemed almost gleeful about it, and it dawned on me she wasn't just helping me. She genuinely wanted to hurt Chase's reputation as much as I did. The next day, we applied for a marriage license, got our blood tests, and started counting the days until the custody hearing. Meanwhile, Lana and Chase's wedding announcement exploded across local society pages. Lavish plans, imported flowers, a honeymoon in Greece. I wasn't invited, naturally. At the hearing, I walked in with Beth beside me, arm in arm. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel outnumbered. Landry, Lana's slick lawyer, started the smear. Mr. Foster is financially unstable, lacks permanent residence in Chesterton, and may not be emotionally fit for shared custody. The judge leaned forward. Do you have proof of any mental instability? Landry coughed. No, Your Honor. Then let's move on, the judge said sharply. Landry pivoted. Mrs. Foster and Mr. Langford are soon to be wed. Their home is in Chesterton, and they offer a more secure future for the children. We request sole custody. Greg rose, calm and focused. Your Honor, Mr. Foster has established residency in Chesterton, where he lives with his fiancée, Beth Ramsey, a respected business owner. He also operates a successful accounting practice from home. We respectfully request joint custody. Lana's face went pale. Chase stiffened in his seat. After 20 minutes with the kids, the judge returned. Custody is complex. But after hearing from the children, it's clear they want time with both parents. Joint custody is granted. Exchanges will occur every other Sunday by 2 p.m. I could have shouted for joy, but I stayed cool. The divorce was finalized, a 50-50 split. We'd each get $6,000 from the house sale. As we left the courtroom, I hugged the kids tightly, then turned to Lana and Chase, who were angrily whispering at their lawyer. Just confirming 2 Sundays from now at 2? I asked cheerfully. Lana rolled her eyes. You're marrying Miss Piggy just to win. And you're marrying your sugar daddy for spa days. I shot back. Chase lunged. I calmly sidestepped. Lana grabbed his arm before he could escalate, and Landry stepped in. Touch him, Chase, and David gets full custody. The kids clung to me, yelling, "Don't hurt our daddy." Lana crouched beside them, fake calm. "It's okay, sweethearts. They were just kidding around." She forced a smile. "Let's go get some ice cream." As they walked away, I called out, "I'll be there. 2 Sundays. 2 p.m. She glared, but said nothing. 2 weeks later, I showed up early. Rachel and Ethan ran to me, smiling from ear to ear. That day we saw a movie, had dinner, then went back to the ranch where they helped Beth bake cookies and fed the horses. They laughed more in one afternoon than they had in months. A month later, Beth and I got married at the courthouse. It was a small ceremony, just the kids, her best friend, and Greg standing by my side. When the vows were done, I kissed her. She looked at me, eyes shining. "We just leveled the playing field," she whispered. And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. A week later, Lana and Chase's wedding was splashed across the society pages, but it was the smiles on my kids' faces that hit harder. It wasn't fair. And though weeks passed, Greg's prediction that the pain would fade didn't come true. It dulled, sure, but most nights still ended in silence and loneliness. For months, I plotted revenge. Fantasies came and went, but nothing seemed worth the risk. Chase was wealthy, Lana untouchable. In my darkest moments, I even considered poisoning the kids' view of her, but I loved them too much to play dirty. It hurt watching them enjoy their new life. Chase's house had it all: pool, hot tub, game room, tennis court, and even a mini movie studio. 3 months after the divorce, Lana started turning them against me. Subtle jabs: "Your dad doesn't spoil you because he doesn't care as much." The kids repeated her words, and it gutted me. Beth said we had to talk to them. When they came back, I asked gently, "Do you think I'm a bad dad because I don't spin like Chase does?" Ethan looked at the ground. "That's what Mom says." I knelt down. "Chase is rich. I can't give you everything he can. But I love you. If gifts matter more, I won't make you stay here anymore." Rachel burst into tears. "No, Daddy. I want to be with you too." Ethan wiped his eyes and nodded. "Me too." When Lana found out, she showed up at the ranch, fuming. "Why are they mad at me?" she shouted. I kept my calm. "Back off, Lana." Then I shut the door in her face. That was just the beginning. She began planning pricey vacations for them, every few months, a new destination. I let them go, not wanting to punish them. But when they asked to go to New York during my week, I offered to switch. Lana refused. The kids were upset with her, not me. A rare win. Through it all, Beth and I found unlikely allies in Lana's parents, Frank and Maya. She hadn't invited them to the wedding, so I invited them to the ranch for a barbecue. Beth insisted they stay the weekend. We talked, laughed, and bonded. Frank, a Vietnam vet with 3 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star, was a hero. Lana's shame over him was unforgivable. From that point on, we welcomed them whenever the kids were with me. Lana never invited them once. Frank even taught me to ride better, helping me connect more with Rachel and Ethan. I'd been reading parenting books and found one that said kids remember experiences more than stuff. Beth ran with it, planning hikes, bowling nights, even organizing a mini rodeo with a local charity. Rachel and Ethan joined the parade on horseback. It became the highlight of their year. Lana tried to sabotage it with a Disneyland bribe, but the kids refused. They didn't want to miss their first rodeo. We made it an annual event. Still, Lana didn't stop trying to buy their affection. She threw in snide remarks when she could and occasionally convinced them to skip a few days with me. I never let them see how much it stung. Every night they were with me, I read them 2 stories, even as they grew older. I'd split chapters into smaller chunks just to keep the tradition alive. Though Beth and I hadn't been intimate, living with her was easy. She was upbeat and kind. Meanwhile, I was growing my accounting firm steadily. By the end of the first year, I was earning about 70% of what I'd made working for Chase. Lana, of course, kept competing. Chase, however, started fading from the parenting picture. Once he realized I wouldn't give up custody, his interest in the kids dropped. He focused more on Lana, dragging her along on his business trips. I was hesitant about letting the kids travel internationally at first, but Beth talked me down. Chase is too obsessed with image to risk a scandal, she said. She was right. The kids loved the trips and returned with stories that lit up their eyes. When one trip was cut short, I met them at the airport. Seeing them run to me reminded me what mattered most. The anniversary of the divorce came and went. I hadn't even realized until Greg mentioned it. I made it up to Beth with flowers and dinner. She was touched. But as we neared the 18-month mark, she became distant. Not cold, just quiet. I could sense her pulling back, and it made me feel like I'd overstayed my welcome. I started looking for a new place and found a modest townhouse in the Chesterton School District. I didn't want to leave. I loved the ranch. Loved the peace, the kids' laughter echoing through the fields, the quiet strength in Beth's presence. We'd even expanded, more land, more horses, hosting weekend riders and corporate retreats. Her business was thriving, clearing nearly $200,000 after taxes. Mine was growing too. I'd hired 2 full-time staff. The wrongful termination suit against Chase had finally paid out $250,000. I gave half to Greg. The night before the 18-month mark, I told Beth I'd found a place and was planning to move out soon. She ran into her room, crying. I didn't know what to do. Though we were married, we'd never crossed any physical line. I'd always kept my distance, unsure if it was right. Later that night, a thunderstorm rolled in. Beth knocked on my door, frightened by the lightning. Can I stay with you? She asked, already trembling. I pulled back the blanket and saw she had nothing on. Please, David, she whispered. I know you don't love me, but I just want to be with you. Just once. Before you go. I hesitated. But then I saw it, all the kindness she'd given, the strength, the loyalty. This wasn't about pity. My feelings had grown, quietly and steadily. It wasn't passion or lust, it was something stronger. Real. Earned. That night, we made love for the first time. And with it, I realized the pain I'd been carrying was finally gone. Beth, I said, my voice low, I don't know if this is love in the fairy tale sense, but I know I don't want to leave you. My feelings have grown every day, but I was afraid you didn't feel the same. She took my hand. Oh, David, I've loved you from the beginning. But you were married to Lana. When we agreed to fake a marriage, I thought maybe I'd have a chance. But when you said you were leaving, it broke me. I love you. I want to be your wife. You'll only leave if I make you, I said softly. And I won't. You're my home now. The next morning was bright, and the air felt different. The anger, betrayal, all of it had dissolved into peace. We weren't pretending anymore. We were husband and wife, for real. When I suggested a honeymoon, Beth surprised me in Montana. Her father had always spoken of his time working on a ranch there. It had inspired him to buy their Texas property. We spent 2 weeks in Montana, staying at a working ranch, sharing long horseback rides, late-night talks, and planning ideas for our own land. We laughed more, kissed more, and truly became partners. When we got home, the kids ran into our arms. But almost immediately, they shared how miserable they'd been. While Lana and Chase traveled Europe, the kids had been left with a strict nanny, no swimming, no fun, just school and chores. When Lana came to pick them up, I offered a simple suggestion. If you need to travel again, let them stay here. The custody agreement is clear, she snapped. 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. I called Greg. Wait and document, he advised. Let her dig her own hole. 6 weeks later, she did. While on another trip, she left the kids with the nanny again. When they told me over the phone, I had enough. Greg filed to modify the custody agreement. Lana exploded. Hell will freeze over before I agree to any changes, she fumed. In court, her lawyer argued the agreement had worked fine for 2 years. Greg countered that it was not in the children's best interest to be abandoned by one parent and left with a stranger when the other parent was available. The judge didn't need long. It makes no sense to deny the children their father's company when the mother is away, he ruled. The modification was granted. It felt like a real win. A shift. Finally, the court saw what was best for the kids. Outside the courtroom, Lana cornered me. Why are you such a pain in the ass? She hissed. I don't get it, I replied. You leave. Why shouldn't the kids stay with me instead of that drill sergeant of a nanny? Screw you, David, she spat, storming off. I turned to Greg. What's her problem now? She hates losing control, he said. And maybe she's afraid the kids will love you more. Years passed. Beth and I had 2 children of our own, Lucy and Nathan. Rachel became like a second mom, and Ethan a fiercely protective big brother. Lana and Chase traveled often, and Ethan and Rachel ended up spending most of their time with us. Lana's visits to her parents dwindled. We, on the other hand, welcomed Frank and Maya almost every weekend. They became part of our family. I loved Frank's stories, Vietnam, hard lessons, and life on the ranch. Lana's coldness toward her parents hurt him deeply, but any time I tried to bring it up, she shut me down. Sometimes I still saw Lana and Chase in the social pages. Rachel and Ethan liked seeing their mom dressed up, in glossy magazines, and I never said a bad word. I used to think her marriage would crumble, but it didn't. According to the kids, Chase was generous and polite, if a bit distant. 8 years after the divorce, Maya passed away from cancer. She spent her final days at the ranch. We buried her in the family cemetery out back. Frank asked to be buried beside her one day. We promised he would. Lana came only once before the end, when Frank called to tell her the time was near. She and Chase arrived for the funeral, both visibly aged. Chase had gained weight. Lana seemed distant. They had a brief, awkward exchange with Frank. When it came time to sit, there wasn't space in the front row. Chase and I ended up in the second pew. He grumbled. Beth shot him a look that shut him up. Minutes later, Chase stood and walked out in a huff. After the service, Frank invited them back to the ranch for the burial and meal. They declined. "We have a flight," Chase said. Later, I asked Beth what happened. She laughed. "Chase was mad you were sitting near Lana. I told him the world doesn't revolve around him. He didn't like that." 2 weeks later, Chase retaliated with a land grab. His lawyers discovered a clerical error about 10 acres on Beth's ranch, an old parcel never assessed for taxes. Chase swooped in, paid the back taxes, and claimed the land. It was swampy, mostly useless. But that wasn't the point. He wanted to stir the pot. Beth was shaken. "Should I just give it to him?" she asked. "Absolutely not," I said. "He's bullying you because you embarrassed him. He doesn't want the land. He wants control." As expected, the court ruled in our favor. The land was Beth's. The error was the county's fault, and Chase's purchase didn't hold. The court capped back taxes at 5 years. It wasn't just a win, it was a message. Chase wasn't untouchable anymore. After everything, I didn't see Chase much anymore. Lana gradually faded from the kids' lives too, mostly because Chase's work kept him traveling constantly. Over time, Rachel and Ethan started spending about 9 months of the year with us, and they made no secret of how much they disliked being at their mom's place. Then came the twist none of us expected. Chase filed for divorce. Lana had cheated on him with billionaire Jasper Thorne, who was younger, richer, and apparently more exciting. Beth and I couldn't help but find the irony delicious. After marrying Jasper, Lana moved out of the Chesterton School District. That sealed it. Rachel and Ethan became full-time residents of our home. Not long after Maya passed, I convinced Frank to sell his house and move in with us. Beth hired him to lead a ranch renovation, and we expanded the house, adding a dining hall for ranch staff and a bigger office for my business. Chase, ever petty, tried to block our permits. He failed. Frank built most of it with his own hands. About a year into her marriage with Jasper, Lana divorced again. The rumor mill claimed Jasper had been caught with an 18-year-old. Later, I learned the truth. Jasper only married Lana to get under Chase's skin. Karma, as they say, always circles back. Despite it all, life felt full, peaceful. The ranch thrived, my business grew, and our family was solid. The bitterness and pain I once carried had been replaced with gratitude for Beth, the kids, and the life we built. Of course, the years brought their share of trials. Ethan was in a serious car crash, fracturing his leg and wrist. Frank suffered a minor stroke but bounced back with therapy. Beth, somehow, remained unshakable. "I don't have time to be sick," she'd joke. "I've got a ranch, 4 kids, and a stubborn husband to manage." I wasn't as lucky. Persistent fatigue and headaches eventually led to the discovery of a clogged artery. Beth dragged me to the doctor, literally, and I ended up needing a triple bypass. It saved my life. Even lying in that hospital bed, I felt better than I had in months. One night after dinner, Beth asked, "Have you ever thought about getting back with Lana?" I turned to her, completely thrown. "Why would you ask that?" "You're my wife," I said. "This life, us, is all I've ever wanted." She smiled softly and leaned against me. We never spoke about it again. Some months later, I was sitting in a hospital lobby, waiting on routine tests, when I spotted an old man across the room, thin, gray, sunken eyes. When he looked up, I recognized him. "Chase," I said, walking over and offering my hand. He shook it weakly. "You won," he muttered. "Won what?" I asked, confused. "I really loved her," he said, voice cracking. "I thought she loved me back." He was talking about Lana. I nodded gently. She had a way of making people believe that. But Lana always believed money was happiness. She never got over being poor. He sighed. "Now I understand what you went through when she left you. How'd you survive it?" "One day at a time. And with the help of a woman who actually loved me." His eyes filled with tears. "It's too late for me. I have stage 4 cancer. I wanted to say I'm sorry for going after your wife. It was wrong. I hope you can forgive me. I looked at the man I'd once hated and felt only pity. There was a time I couldn't even say your name without rage. But that time's gone. If you want forgiveness, you've got it. Chase smiled faintly and thanked me. He passed away 5 months later. Beth and I went to his funeral. I was shocked by how few people showed. Lana was there, clearly upset, not just about Chase, but about seeing me. You just had to come and gloat, didn't you? She hissed afterward. Wanted everyone to know you won. I came to pay respects, I replied, biting back anger. You left him for someone richer, and now you're angry the one man who truly loved you is gone? Chase apologized to me, Lana. Months ago. Have you ever said sorry to him? I didn't wait for her answer. I took Beth's hand and walked out. The car ride home was silent until Beth cracked a grin. Who pooped in your Krispy Kremes this morning? I burst out laughing. Beth always knew how to pull me back to earth. When Chase's will was read, I was surprised. Most of his wealth went to charity and his alma mater, but he also left Lana $2 million. Now with inheritances and settlements from 2 rich ex-husbands, Lana had more than enough. She bought a sleek apartment not far from the ranch and tried to reconnect with Rachel and Ethan, but they weren't interested. The apartment was modern, cold, more suited for a single socialite than teenagers. I encouraged them to give it a try, but the visits fizzled fast. Eventually, Lana gave up and started dating casually. The kids were visibly relieved. And if they were happy, so was I. I couldn't be prouder of the people they became. Ethan graduated from Georgia Tech with a degree in engineering. He moved to Austin, married a fellow engineer named Elise, and they have 2 bright, spunky daughters. Rachel went to Texas A&M and became a veterinarian. She worked alongside Dr. Liam Monroe before opening her own clinic. Later, she merged practices with Zach Whitman, a younger vet she ended up marrying. They have 3 kids and a thriving business. Our grandkids practically live at the ranch. They ride horses, help feed animals, and play under the same skies Rachel and Ethan grew up beneath. Lana's father, Frank, spends more time with them than anyone else. In the end, it wasn't about who won. It was about who stayed. Maya, my youngest, graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in education. She teaches 3rd grade now and married Noah, a quiet, kind chemistry teacher. They're expecting their first child soon, and I couldn't be happier. Being a grandparent is one of life's best rewards. Spoil them when they're sweet, hand them back when they fuss. Ethan married Chloe, a woman he met while vacationing in England. She's petite, barely 5 feet tall, with long dark hair and violet eyes. I tease that she looks like a miniature Elizabeth Taylor. They've got 3 kids already, and Chloe's pregnant with their 4th. How she manages, given her size, is beyond me. Time flew. Beth and I recently celebrated our 30th anniversary. Life was good. Peaceful. I hadn't seen Lana much over the years. The kids called her occasionally, but rarely visited. From what they told me, she wasn't the same. She hadn't dated in years and, they said, rarely left the house. Her beauty had faded, sure, but what struck them most was the sadness in her eyes. Lana still phoned her dad every couple of months. At almost 90, Frank was slowing down. I once asked him why their calls were always short. I don't know what to say anymore, he admitted. That stuck with me. One Christmas, I went to the mall for last-minute gift cards, my go-to when I'm stumped on presents. Afterward, I grabbed a sandwich at the food court and spotted Lana sitting alone, quietly watching passing families. She looked older, heavier, but it was the loneliness in her face that stood out most. I walked over. Mind if I join you? She glanced up, startled. What do you want? She snapped. I took a step back. Nothing. Just wanted to say hi. I'll find another table. Lana's expression softened. No, I'm sorry. The holidays bring out the worst in me. Please, sit. I did. We sat for a long moment in silence. Christmas shopping? I asked. She shook her head. Not since Chase and I split. I just send checks now. The kids appreciate the money, especially for the grandkids' college funds. They must be grateful, I said. They sent thank you notes. She smiled faintly, watching a couple with a stroller pass by. So why come to the mall? I thought you hated shopping crowds. I just wanted to be around people, she said. Everyone I know is out of town this week. I hesitated. You're not going to spend Christmas alone in that apartment, are you? I have dinner reservations. A Greg Hanks movie afterward, she said with forced cheer. Nope, I said. You're coming to the ranch. The kids will be there. The grandkids. Your dad. It'll be a full house. I'd just be in the way. Not at all. Presents start at 7 a.m., dinner's at 3. Come whenever. Lana looked uncertain, but I didn't waver. We'll see, she mumbled. When I told Beth, she wasn't thrilled. Why'd you invite her? She asked. Because she's still their mother, I said. It's Christmas. Frank, who overheard, nodded. I'm glad you did. Christmas Day came. Lana didn't. Not in the morning. Not for dinner. I figured she'd changed her mind. Frank sat quiet most of the day, until my youngest granddaughter, Bella, dragged him to the floor for a game of Candyland. Then, around 5:30, the doorbell rang. There she was, dressed for dinner out, makeup subtle, but elegant. I thought you weren't coming, I said. I still think it might be a mistake, she admitted. You missed dinner, but dessert's soon. Want me to heat something up? No, dessert's fine, she said quietly. I called out, Hey, everyone, look who's here. The grandkids swarmed her instantly, dragging her into their games. Rachel and Ethan hugged her and wished her Merry Christmas. Even Beth greeted her with a quick hug. Lana was nervous at first, but as the warmth set in, she began to relax. I watched her and Frank talk and laugh like old times. Still, I could tell she felt out of place. Later, when the grandkids were in bed, we all gathered by the fireplace. The hot tub had been briefly considered until Frank tried it and came back in seconds, shivering. Only a lunatic would sit in that in this cold, he said, teeth chattering. We sipped cider, the tree lights flickering, fire crackling, and nobody saying much. I noticed tears slipping down Lana's face. You okay? I asked gently. I'll be fine, she whispered, wiping her eyes. We let the silence speak for us. Then Lana took a breath. I almost didn't come. I was afraid I'd just confirm what I already knew, that I've made a mess of my life. You're being too hard on yourself, Beth said kindly. You loved Chase. And Jasper. Things happen. Half of all marriages fail. I did love Chase, Lana said. And I still loved you, David. But I loved Chase's money and power more. I let him come between me and the kids. He got sick, and before long, I started cheating, even before Jasper. When I caught Jasper cheating on me, he just laughed. Told me he married me to hurt Chase. Her voice cracked. That's when I realized what I'd done. The hurt I caused. Not just to you, but to Chase too. She paused, then added quietly, after Jasper, I swore off marriage. Had a string of empty flings. Nothing meant anything. That was as close as Lana ever came to an apology. She finished her drink and stood. I should go. Frank and I tried to get her to stay, but she was already at the door. Before she left, she hugged her father tightly. I love you, Dad, she whispered, eyes brimming. Then she turned to me, pulled me in for a long embrace, and said simply, Thank you. Then she was gone. I don't know what the future holds for Lana. Maybe she'll reconnect with the family. Maybe not. As I sat alone by the fire that night, the house quieter than usual, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Not because of what she'd lost, but because she finally understood what mattered, and it came too late. I thought back to that verse again. Time and chance happened all. And in the end, it was time and not revenge that gave me peace.